Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This past weekend, Deanne and I were talking to a lady that said she's kind of given up on losing weight. Yep, she said losing weight doesn't seem to be working for her. So she said she's going to concentrate just on getting taller. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning on a Monday. Good morning. On a Monday morning, I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with, of course, not forgetting our great advertisers and Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Don't forget them. Locally owned and operated, Western Waste, 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, here's Gina. Good morning.
Good morning, sunshine.
Ooh, you're not sounding good. What happened to the microphone?
There's a break in the cord.
Ah, I see. Now it's coming in better. And how are you this morning?
I am doing well, a little bit sore from skiing over the weekend, but otherwise not too bad.
Yeah, and real quickly, I would imagine your disposition is not in good shape this morning.
Because of the game?
Yeah.
Honestly, we watched the game. It was a really good game. I'm really, really bummed for my Seahawks, but you know, what kind of a call was Carroll thinking of when he picked that last play of the game? And so it is what it is. I'm not going to be too bummed about it because it's just a game, but I really am.
Yeah, but it's more than just a game. I mean, it is for the World Championship, and that had to be one of the dumbest calls. I don't know who it was, the offensive coordinator trying to sway him or whatever, but you've got the best running back in the NFL.
Why are you throwing a pass play?
With less than a yard to go and 2 timeouts, what is the matter with that?
Yeah, with 20 seconds left on the clock, that is an eternity when you're like 1 to goal, and to throw a pass play when you're that close. At the end of the game, Pete Carroll did take responsibility for that call, but I think maybe it was the offensive coordinator who obviously is an idiot.
Well, that sums it up. All right, do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Al on for the pledge and Michael Rogers on for the wall.
All right, good morning, Al. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
When you said that about weight loss and all that stuff, you grow taller. If you grow 1 inch high, you get 3 inches wide.
Okay. Give us a pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, thank you, Al. Appreciate it. Yes.
You see what happened again when turbulence and chaos is on the field?
Yes, I did.
The Butler name?
Yeah, the Butler name. Turbulence and chaos. But you know what? That young man made an outstanding play.
Yes, he did.
All right. Got him go.
All in all, it was a pretty good game.
It really was. Al, thank you. God bless you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-6945. Hey, they say don't be afraid of mixing up your seating at the dining table. Use 2 to 3 different chair styles to have a kind of a different feel to your dining space. They know all about interior design. You better believe it. Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for the blue door at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Morning, everybody. Cloudy rain today, and also to continue tonight and tomorrow. 50s for the daytime high, mid to upper 30s for the overnight low. It's going to be cloudy throughout the remainder of the week going into the weekend, but otherwise, have a great day. Enjoy the weather. What do you got?
All right, thank you very much, Michael Rogers at michaelrogersweather.com. And Deanne, write me a note on that, would you please? Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue doors, 678-6945, with lots and lots of beautiful, newly refurbished furniture. Absolutely. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I got a whole bunch of things to talk about. Supposedly, as if you cared, Puxatawny Phil this morning, the great big groundhog, saw his shadow and proclaimed that we will have 6 more weeks of winter. But I got to thinking about something. And Gina, are you right there by your microphone?
Yeah, I'm here.
Don't we have 6 more weeks of winter anyway? So how could the groundhog be wrong?
We still have all of February and March to get through.
Yeah, so on the calendar, spring's not for another 6 weeks, so how can the groundhog's proclamation ever be wrong?
Here's my question. Are they waking up poor Puxatawny Phil earlier and earlier every year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was really disgruntled. You know, another Puxatawny Phil died, because of Governor de Blasio.
What?
Yeah, he dropped him on his head. I'm telling the truth.
When was this?
I think it was last year. Yeah, de Blasio was holding him, and the old Puxatawny Phil decided he wanted to go south, and he did, right on his nose.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
I didn't hear about that. So this is a new Puxatawny Phil.
Yeah, it was hard to bury him because the ground was froze, but anyway.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah,
poor guy.
That's true. I saw the video of that when de Blasio was standing there, dropped him, and Phil didn't look real good. His eyes were crossed, and his teeth kind of looked at a different angle and everything, and not good.
When are we going to ever get out of that tradition? I mean, seriously?
I think it's absolutely... They interrupted this morning a really good news story to have the bulletin that they were ready to pull Puxatawny Phil out of his cage and let him see his shadow, and I thought... Is that what we really slipped to?
Honestly, it has, for harassing animals to tell us how much more winter we have.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't look at a calendar and figure it out for ourselves.
That's the whole point. The doggone groundhog can never be wrong. There's still 6 weeks of winter either way you look at it.
Well, somebody wants to be right.
I guess. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hey, calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, these are good folks. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew, and believe me, when I go in there, I take in some really rumply-crumplies, I'll tell you that, and food stains, everything else. They do a wonderful job making them come back to me, look brand spanking new. They are the best cleaners in the universe. Please stop in and see them. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, waiting to serve you. I know somebody else that's wanting to wait to serve you too, and that's SafeLink Internet. You better believe it. No contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data, and it is Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet, SafeLink Internet. So all you have to do is call 677-8000 SafeLink Internet and tell them I sent you. They are waiting to serve you, and their service is absolutely the best at SafeLink Internet. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Big game yesterday, Seattle Seahawks, New England Patriots. Didn't like the Patriots, don't like the Patriots, but they won. I mean, the Seahawks get on the 1-yard line and blew it with a pass over the middle. And it was fun watching. It was a good game. And I got to say this, too. The halftime, and a lot of you might be surprised about this because you thought I might condemn it and everything. Actually, I'm not a Katy Perry fan. I'm not a fan of that type of venue. But when you look at the effort that was put into that halftime, with her riding a mechanical lion and literally getting on a pedestal in some kind of a flying device and flying way up into the air over the multitudes in the stadium, it was a very, very well done halftime. I got to ask Gina what she thought of it. What did you think of Katy Perry's halftime?
Honestly, I was watching, and I was going to be very critical. You know, I'm expecting something to happen, some wardrobe malfunction, something.
Yeah.
Very tasteful. Her outfits were tasteful. As far as all of the mechanics and everything, and her flying over the crowd when she was doing that one song, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great show.
I'm not going to pick at it because I don't think that would be appropriate. I think that the young lady, she has struck a nerve and a chord with a lot of people as to whether or not she does things a little bit too far like Madonna. But when she came out riding that mechanical lion, the effort that was imposed on that, and then also flying over the stadium and, like I said, the crowd, I was very, very much impressed with the showmanship of the halftime.
I was too, and I'm wondering if somebody actually had the conversation with her. Keep it neat and clean this year because we've had enough problems as it is on our own. But overall, I thought it was very family friendly and very tasteful because Katy Perry's known for the shock and awe of it all.
Yeah.
But I think what she did for the halftime show, very, very tasteful.
I'm going to talk about the commercials in a few minutes, and I'll get your opinion on that, too, so stand by. I got to do some bills. All right, here we go. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Oh, they've got all the quality air filters right there for your furnace. And I know, I don't care what Puxatani Phil says or not, we're going to have cold weather here again. It's coming around the bend. I hear the train a-coming. Anyway, you can buy one or a package of quality air filters at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. For all your electrical needs, you stop in and see them today. Open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Oh, by the way, February, and love is in the air. Valley-wide Home and Ranch in Rupert wants you and your lovebird. Go into the lovebird sale that's going on till February 13th, and jewelry and clothing, and you can also enter the Lovebirds Evening for two, and you'll receive a romantic night stay and a honeymoon suite. Oh, look out. At the Best Western, plus 2 desserts from Perkins, and a $50 gift card to the Upper Crust Grill. Lovebirds at Valley-wide Home and Ranch. They're chirping over there. Stop into Valley-wide Home and Ranch at 910 South Oneida in Rupert and check on the Lovebird giveaway. Oh, isn't that nice? I'll tell you what. Valley-wide Home and Ranch in Rupert. Sean and Mandy and the whole crew. Stop in. Okay, the commercials. I got to talk a little bit about the commercials, and I don't know if Gina's going to agree with me on this, but it's my own personal opinion. There were some of the commercials in yesterday's setting of the Super Bowl that I didn't think were A, very tastefully done, B, had a message above the IQ of a 9-year-old, and C, I thought that they just left a vague impression of what in the world were they trying to sell. But there were others, and I will give you my 2 favorites. I narrowed it down to 2, and I'll see if Gina agrees or not. I watch very closely to the commercials, and hands down, and I'm prejudiced on this, I would say that the Budweiser commercial with the little puppy that comes back home late at night in the rainstorm, and a wolf's going to try to get that little puppy, and the Budweiser Clydesdales break out of the stalls and come running to his rescue, that was my favorite. But my second favorite was the Camry commercial about Dad. That just absolutely brought tears to my eyes when the father...
That was a Nissan commercial.
It was a Camry. I think it was. I'll stand behind that. It was Camry. Yeah. You check it out, and if I'm wrong...
Was that the one where the dad is driving around? But
you check it out. I believe it was Camry.
Nissan.
I'll bet you it was Camry, and we'll see who wins. And the winner has to buy the other one lunch. Okay? She's
Okay,
checking on the computer. I don't care. I'll still make the bet with you. Here you got a chance to make a dinner. Okay. But it was a wonderful, wonderful commercial. And it really plugged at the heartstrings. So I would say those two, Budweiser and the Dad commercial. And by the way, I will say this. It was the first commercial in a long, long time, or anything on television for a long, long time, that made dads look good instead of buffoons. And there is no argument on that one. It's been a long time coming to where dads are not the butt of all the jokes and being run down as being buffoons and leading to buffoonery and everything else. I thought that was a real tastefully done commercial. Hey, don't forget our friends at Barry Equipment and Rental. I'll be right there, caller. Eli, Nick, and the whole crew. Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And by the way, they're going to be at Agra Action, and they've got a special deal for you at Agra Action. With the purchase of a Doosan loader, they're going to be throwing in a Bobcat UTV. Holy cow! Great financing, lease options, all of this, with the old Packer backer, Eli and Nick and the whole crew at Barry Equipment and Rental. Once again, they're going to be at Agra Action coming up February 5 through 7 at the CSI Expo Center. And that's Barry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. The Seahawks snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I couldn't believe it that they would actually, they're on the 1 yard line and have 3 shots to put it in the end zone and put the ball in the air. Are you kidding me?
And the worst part of the field called the middle.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. Yeah.
I mean, you and I have been watching football for a long time, and you just don't do that, but I think that offensive coordinator may be looking for whoever made that call.
Yeah.
Maybe look for a new job.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Adrian. In all fairness to the situation, seriously, it's not just the offensive coordinator, because that's why they wear headsets. And if I were Pete Carroll, he should have overridden that decision for that pass over the middle, because holy smokes, I mean, you've got the best running back, or one of the best in the NFL. You're a yard away, and that guy, that Marshawn Lynch had blood in his eye. He wanted that ball the worst way to go into the end zone, and they had 2 timeouts left and everything. I think it was just absolutely one of the most horrendous calls in football I've ever seen.
I totally agree, but you have to give credit to that rookie that picked it off. I mean, that was just, his timing they showed on ESPN this morning about an hour ago. The timing, I mean, he read the quarterback's eyes, and he made his move. And I mean, he was going 15 miles an hour when he intercepted that ball.
Yeah, it was absolutely. And then what set it all up, a lot of people have overlooked the fact that what set that play all the way up was that outstanding, absolutely, I think it should go down in the annals of Super Bowl history as one of the greatest catches of all time, when the ball was bouncing around on that one receiver's body and he caught it.
Yeah, that was pretty phenomenal. Yeah, it was. It looked like another one of those comebacks. And of course, Seattle, scored with only about 30 seconds. They went 80 yards just before the halftime in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, but on a more serious note, I didn't have a chance, but I think we need to really congratulate the state legislatures for having the insight to not add the words.
Absolutely.
Of course, there's a lot of criticism out there about that, but I got an email from one of the state legislators that was on that committee, and they were it was opening up Pandora's box, giving special privileges to a group of people, and there was no. If they'd add the words and then add a whole bunch of other things to it, that wouldn't give them special privileges, that might have been acceptable, and they may try that route. But they don't really want that route. They want their special privileges.
Yes, they don't want any criticism. They don't want anybody of any religious value criticizing their lifestyle as being abnormal. And quite frankly, it would absolutely subdue anybody and everybody, myself included, from speaking their opinion in a religious connotation. And quite frankly, I am sick and tired of sexual preferences and abnormalities taking over our lifestyles. Adrian, I've got to run and do a commercial, but I do appreciate it.
I think this is what. So people, they're gonna keep trying. So keep on our legislators to hold the line. Anyway, have a good day.
All right.
Have a great week.
God bless. Thank you very much. Denny's Restaurant. I got to tell you real quick. Wow, 611 Overland and Burley, home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Woo! They are good. They are delicious. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Whatever you want to go in for, the menu is just chock full of great choices and selections. All you have to do is just go in there and enjoy. Now, they've got 2 locations, 611 Overland and Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh my, and it is the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. You stop in today. Great service, like I said, fantastic food at Denny's Restaurant in Twin Falls, and of course our Zeb's Lunch Bunch in Burley. You don't forget that. We're going to be giving away in just a very few minutes a little special for you, so stay tuned for that. At about 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to have a question to give away something, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Don't forget, to our friends over at Scow's CarQuest Centers, Auto and Truck Parts, Scow's Incorporated, Rupert, Hayburn, and Burley. Since 1949, Scow's, every detail matters. Now, you heard Jeff Poole last week saying sign up today for the Fleet Filter Survey. That way, whatever the problems are with your various trucks, etc., they can track it down and go right to the source and get it all taken care of. Great way to save time when something breaks down this spring. Check out today that Fleet Filter Survey, and they team up with Baldwin Filters, the best heavy-duty filters in the industry. Scow's CarQuest in Rupert, Scow's CarQuest in Burley, and Scow's Big Truck Center, exit 211 I-84. They're waiting to serve you. Every detail matters. Absolutely. We are, at this time, going to go with the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to everybody by Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. These are wonderful people, employee-owned company, and they offer always superior customer service, drive-through recycling, and they also carry trailer parts. You might not know that, and they sell new steel, angle iron, flat iron, tubing, etc., all of this and much more at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. And right now, here is the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. Record profits in the cattle sector in 2014 have motivated herd expansion. The beef production sector, from cow-calf producers to packers, realized a combined record high profit of $1,100 per head in 2014, capturing a higher percentage of the retail dollar than ever before, says Lance Zimmerman, CattleFax analyst. Cow-calf producers pulled in profits of $550 per cow and set the stage for herd expansion. Beef supplies are still tight, but a repeat of 2014 isn't realistic, given production increases of pork and poultry, he says. CattleFax has expected the national beef cow inventory to have gained 400,000 to 500,000 head in 2014 and is expecting close to 1 million head to be added in both 2015 and 2016. For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Thank you very much, Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. They will meet or beat their competitor pricing. Adam and Josh and the whole crew serving you at Pacific Steel and Recycling. Holy cow, before I give something away, did you hear about the Delta flight the other day? I believe it was a Delta flight stemming from Seattle, I believe, and I could be wrong on that. But anyway, the pilot left the cockpit and goes back to the restroom. They do it all the time. Okay, you'll see the captain walking through the congregate members of the flight. Well, he got locked out. The door jammed on the plane into the cockpit, and he couldn't get back in there. And, I mean, it must have caused great concern with a lot of people because there's the pilot locked out and the first officer, and I understand the words were, "I believe I can land the plane, sir." Key word, believe. There were a lot of nervous Nellies on that plane when the pilot got locked out. And there's been a lot of videos taken on people's cell phones and everything of the pilot standing there in the plane talking to the people, the passengers, and not able to get back into the cockpit. And so the first officer, and I understand he did a very nice job, landed the plane, and thank goodness all was well. Okay. Oh, and I got to tell you a story about a beauty pageant winner that really got thumped on, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It was the Miss Amazon contest, and she's got some bald spots right now. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Right now, we're going to do something that's fun. We're going to be giving away a half dozen wonderful, delicious cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street over in Rupert on the Square. Now, here's the deal. If you win, you got to go in there and you got to show your ID, but you got to tell them what day you're going to pick up your cinnamon rolls so they're not just laying there waiting for you. Yes, sirree, they're going to be fresh and delicious. And they got a great bakery over there at Sophie's Chatterbox, open 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays, 6 to 2 on weekends. And you just call them and let them know when you're coming in and pick up your cinnamon rolls. Show your ID that you're the winner, and you're going to enjoy some delicious cinnamon rolls. Here's the question to win a half dozen delicious cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox. This is an easy one, okay? In the John Wayne movie, Red River, who was the actor that played the cook? He's a renowned actor, and he went on to play in a lead in a television series in the 60s. Who was the actor that played the cook on the cattle drive in the movie Red River, and he went on to have the lead in a TV series in the 60s? Name the actor, okay? First person to call, 436-2244 or 1-866-927-4587. Holy buckets, we got somebody calling already. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, that'd be the real McCoy, Walter Brennan.
Who is this?
This is Wayne.
Wayne who?
Bond.
Wayne Bond, right?
Yep.
Wayne, you have just won a half dozen delicious, fantabulous cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox. You go in and show your ID. Tell them when you can pick them up, and they'll have them all baked up and delicious, okay?
Boy, that sounds great, doesn't it?
All right, sir. Congratulations.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you. Walter Brennan. Say, Walter Brennan. They say they're pilgrims. Anyway, I can't do a very good Walter Brennan, but anyway, that was the actor in Red River and went on to be the grandpa in The Real McCoys. Holy smoke, I got to get Gina on the air for this. She's not going to believe this. Gina, did you ever enter a beauty pageant?
No.
Did you ever want to enter a beauty pageant?
What's that?
Did you ever want to enter a beauty pageant? Did you hear what happened to Miss Amazon? She lost a lot of hair.
Why?
Well, there was a slight problem. They announced the winner of Miss Amazon, and they put the crown on this one young lady's head and got it all fit properly, etc. And the first runner-up was really upset, and she goes over and rips the crown off of Miss Amazon and tears out a lot of hair. Miss Amazon is fighting right now some bald spots because the first runner-up absolutely pulled the crown off her head, pulled her hair out with it, and she was a little bit distraught that she didn't win.
Okay, so what happened?
Well, basically, the first runner-up thought she should have been the winner. and she thought she was better suited for being Miss Amazon. And when they named the winner and put the crown on her head, Miss First Runner-Up went berserk.
Oh, my goodness. So any charges filed, or are they just going to consider this, it's a beauty pageant?
It doesn't say as to whether or not charges are going to be filed, but, boy, I'll tell you what, she said that the first runner-up yelled and screamed on the stage that the winner had basically bought her way into the title, and she ripped the crown off the girl's head and ripped out her hair, and finally she was subdued, and they went on with the ceremonies after they got her off the stage.
Oh, my goodness. Talk about somebody who obviously is a sore loser.
No, actually, there's such a thing as a sore winner when she had her hair pulled out by the roots.
Oh, that just makes my head hurt even thinking about it, because, those tiaras, they've got these little teeth combs, those little combs, and they have that teeth in it, and so it can dig into, especially if somebody's trying to rip it off your head. Ooh, I'm sure that she's got some head damage.
I can't even, nor do I want to imagine what that would be like. Of course, now my hair isn't very long. I'm lucky to have hair. But man, oh man, I saw the video of it, and the winner is looking away to the past and going out queen as they put the crown on her head. Well, coming up from behind is the first runner-up, and she just reaches up and, I'm telling you, just jerked it right out of her hair.
That makes my head hurt even just thinking about it.
Oh, well. Anyway, doesn't it make you want to enter a beauty pageant?
Oh, it really does.
Okay. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk about atrocities. I want to get into that in just a minute, that are going on around the world. Stand by. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley, with Zach and Joanne, the whole crew. Really, they've got everything. They've got windows, doors, they've got lumber, they've got garage doors, they've got all your carpet and vinyl. They've even got farm and ranch equipment from Tartar Farm and Ranch Equipment, absolutely the best. Please, they are the sponsors of Dr. History on Tuesdays at 10:06, and we thank them. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. Number to call, and that's 878-2091. Minnecasia Sales, right across from the Burley Airport. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Also, I want to remind everybody, Canyonside Irwin Realty in Twin Falls serving all the Magic Valley. They've got offices all over Magic Valley serving you. That's right, for all your real estate needs. I'm very happy to be a part of it. And give the office a call at 734-6500, or give me a call at 312-2976, Canyonside Irwin Realty. Thank you very much. This is a subject that needs to be discussed this morning, and it's just absolutely heinous atrocity. There's been another beheading by ISIS, and is it now to the point, I want to ask you this question out there, folks, is it now to the point that society is becoming accustomed to, and I hope this is not the case, I hope we're not even close to that, but society is being accustomed into accepting this barbarism as commonplace? How many more people, journalists and others, are going to be beheaded, and our milquetoast, knee-buckling administration is going to do anything, I mean really something, in a concentrated effort to go after these people and annihilate them? How much more? I can't imagine the pain and the suffering that the families have gone through. I can't imagine the absolute mental, just absolutely breakdown of these people worrying about their loved ones, and then also the people themselves as they're paraded out on numerous occasions to make these videos with ISIS, with somebody making them kneel down, grabbing them by the nape of the neck, and holding a just absolutely deadly knife in the other hand, not knowing if that is going to be the last couple of instants of their life on earth. And it just seems like, what are we doing? What is the world doing to get rid of this vermin? And yes, I believe the United States should absolutely be the leader in this cause to get rid of these absolutely worthless people. Your thoughts on this? I looked at the faces. There was on one of the newscasts a composite from James Foley all the way up to this Japanese gentleman Goto. And you look at the faces, and why? Why did they die? Why did they die such a heinous death? Why did they have to suffer that absolutely mind-blowing persecution up to their death? And these vermin, ISIS, basically are running the show. And what is this administration that we have now doing? Caller, good morning. Help me on this. I'm just absolutely at a loss for words because of the inhumanity against man. Good morning. You're on the air.
All past administrations, our president had been on top of that, Democrat or Republican. They would have been fighting ISIS.
What basically, Fred, are we doing to eliminate this problem? I mean, we won't call it what it is. We won't tell anybody about jihad. We won't tell anybody it's Muslim terrorism. We won't say anything about it. I think we're afraid of them.
Well, we're not, but our leader is supposed to be our leader. He definitely isn't a leader. He hasn't got the canonties to go after him. If he don't want to go after him, I believe he's one of them. What's wrong with that man?
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
If you could call him a man, but then that Congress, they could impeach him and put somebody in there that could take care of us.
We need, Fred, and I appreciate your call. God bless you, man. Thanks. I got to get the weather on in a minute, but we need a new, vibrant thought in Washington, D.C. We need a complete sweepage out the door of all the chaff on the floor, and quite frankly, I mean that in the House and the Senate, and I think you'd agree with me.
I go along with you all the way.
All right, sir.
We need a complete cleanup.
God bless you, sir. I appreciate it. As always, one of my dearest friends. Fred, thank you very much. I just can't imagine, audience, the horrors that are happening around the world. And they're, like I said, becoming commonplace. ISIS and Al-Qaeda. You know, let me ask you something here, too. Why is it that this administration, from Admiral Kirby to Josh Earnest to John Kerry to Obama himself, they will not, and they're making edicts that nobody is supposed to say Islamic Jihad, Muslim terrorism. They stay away from those terminologies. Oh, we can't base it on Muslim religion. Oh, no, we can't say Islamic terrorism. But Al-Qaeda, now listen carefully, this is not anybody in our government, this is not any of us, this is Al-Qaeda themselves. Al-Qaeda said, death to anyone and everyone that mocks or criticizes the teachings of Islam and Muhammad. That sure sounds like a religious statement to me based on Islam and being a Muslim, and that's from Al-Qaeda themselves. But our president, our so-called leadership, absolutely will denounce any verbiage that uses those words. And you got to scratch your head, folks. What is going on? It goes back to, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's sure not a Shetland pony. Time for the weather. And the weather this hour is brought to you by Red's Trading Post. Yes, it is. Red's Trading Post with our good friend Ryan and the rest of the crew. They got a super location serving you at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. All the selections of new firearms from Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester. All the accessories, all the ammunition, and all the knowledge about all of these fine firearms with their staff. You stop in and see them today. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch, start of our brand spanking new week and month with you, me, and yucky weather, although it's going to be not yucky for the entire month, but for today and tomorrow, you got rain in the forecast. Temperatures, daytime highs in the low 50s. Overnight lows, a little bit warmer, but not as bad as it could be, pretty much in the upper 30s. Otherwise, you're going to stay cloudy with rain, and toward the end of the week, it's going to be just mostly cloudy as you work your way toward the weekend. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right, thank you very much. And that's, of course, Michael Rogers. Weather brought to you by Red's Trading Post at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I have not had the opportunity yet because of other things that have come up. And I guess I'm one of the only people not to have seen American Sniper. And I just absolutely have heard so many wonderful things about it. I talked to people over the weekend that have seen it, and they said, Zeb, do not miss it. I've got to make that a priority, and I've got to go see the movie. My schedule has not allowed me to go and see it at this time. But I do know that in Texas today, as a matter of fact, Governor Greg Abbott has proclaimed that this is Chris Kyle Day. Chris Kyle Day in the state of Texas to honor Chris Kyle. And I got to thinking about that earlier this morning. And actually, this should be a day all across the United States for Chris Kyle and all like him that have served our country, tried to protect our soldiers, and they're all heroes. And I just absolutely, I'm going to ask Gina a favor. Gina, can you come back on the microphone for a second?
Sure.
In honor of this being named Chris Kyle Day by Governor Greg Abbott down in Texas, when we go into the news, if you'd play Toby Keith's The Angry American, and he's going to kick some you-know-what, I think that song of all amplifies what this day stands for in honor of Chris Kyle.
Not a problem.
I appreciate that. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call on the landline. And in just a minute, we are going to be talking about the measles outbreak, so stand by for that. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call, 678-1191. They're right behind Dr. Crane's office and across the street from Family Health Services in Burley. And Nick Greenwell, all the physical therapists on the staff, the entire staff, they know all about the exercises. They know all about sports medicine. They know all about helping you get back to being and feeling like you. Absolutely. And that hydrotherapy pool, the only one in the area, oh, that is fantabulous. I know because I've used it many, many times. So call them today for an appointment, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation in Burley, waiting to help you. Okay? All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I think we can blame this mess that we've got going on Barack Obama for pulling our troops out. If he had any brains, he would have just thought just a little bit that who was going to fill in the vacuum when our troops pulled out of Iraq. I mean, this guy should have realized that they were going to take this whole area over the minute we moved out. Now, the situation is so bad. The only way we're going to take care of this is for all these nations to get together and go in there and just annihilate that whole area.
Yeah. You know, Tony,
worldwide thing to do it.
I know. I don't know. The feelings of a lot of people are that they're glad that we've pulled out. A lot of people are glad, and I can't argue with them on this thing, that their sons and daughters are not being moved into that area. But you know something? For all the blood, the sweat, and the tears, and the giving of life and limb, it just seems so counterproductive and so absolutely worthless to just all of a sudden pull out and let the enemy just reclaim everything as if those lives didn't matter.
Well, it's gotten so strong now. We've got the Brotherhood in Washington in politics right now, and the problem is here now. It's just a matter of time before what's happening over there is going to happen here. And if people think any different, well, just wait and see, Buster.
I agree. Now, I think, Deanne, come on in here for a second, can you please? I just need to ask you, did Martin Moyer call and say he can't come on the air this morning? Okay, I just was verifying that. Tony, for your education and everybody else, you remember the book, Twilight in America, written by Martin Moyer, about all the different terror camps? Well, I have called him, and he is scheduled to be on my program this morning at 10:06, and he's also going to be talking about an update on that book with a video they've produced. So don't miss that at 10:06 this morning.
Okay, I will. I'll listen. Okay, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. I thought maybe Deanne, you said he had called. Anyway, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I would sure appreciate it. The measles outbreak, it's expanding. It's getting bigger. It's getting much more dangerous. It's also not just involving children, it's involving elderly. Right now, it has spread to about 14 states. And all of this, and I get a little bitter, more than bitter, when I think about this, all of this and the blame for this has got to go to the unvaccinated. It has to have the blame fall on the shoulders of selfish parenting, and the blame has to also go on, along with the selfish parenting, ignorance. And I just shudder to think how big this measles outbreak is going to get. There have been many reports by many doctors that it's not only the youngsters susceptible to this, but now a lot of the people over 60, where possibly the vaccines have worn off, and it could cause a huge and potentially very risky situation. All of this because of, and again I'll use the words, if it offends some, I can't help it, I'm just absolutely bitterly opposed to those that are basically putting others at risk because of selfishness and ignorance about the vaccine programs. And it hurts me to think that we're looking at this problem of measles rearing its ugly head and the potentiality of watching other diseases grow in this country and come back. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While we're waiting, I want to remind you that right now they're celebrating the Founders Celebration at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, this is unbelievable. They've got tires starting at just $39.99, all-season tread, economically priced. Right, they've even got some at $57.77. They got the Ultra Z900 on sale, outstanding tread life, 65 to 80,000 miles. That is a super good tire. You stop in and see them today. All 7 locations with all these great tire buys and all the services like brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, the best in batteries, always at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John over there on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Zeb, do you know if you've already had the measles, if you're immune?
I don't know, and I'm not going to ever purport to be the doctor of measles. I don't know. I do know that there has been quite a few studies that have been put out, and I've got some on my desk here, by doctors around the country that have warned the elderly that if they were vaccinated against it, they might have had the vaccine wear off, and now that's another susceptible age group along with youngsters that they're very concerned about.
Okay. Well, then we need a lot more information, don't we?
Well, Chris, it boils down to this. Polio and rubella and measles and everything. Why? Why, with all the scientific data, why are parents opting out? The state of Mississippi, by the way, Mississippi of all states, they've got the highest rate of vaccination of any of the states. I believe it's like at 99.7% of the state's kindergartners are fully vaccinated. Why? Why are we taking risks with our children and others?
Well, I wonder if this is kind of caught medical people blindsided, because we thought we had eradicated these diseases, but we do not know what came across our borders.
That's right.
This year.
That's right.
And people need to keep that in mind.
You know, Frosty Woolridge told this story 3 years ago about the illegal aliens coming in with all the diseases. He spent 2 entire programs, and he's coming up next half hour. We're going to talk about this. 2 entire programs in a week's period, 2 weeks period, talking about these diseases, talking about the non-vaccinated coming across the border, talking about the resurgence of polio and other diseases and measles and everything. Why are we putting ourselves on a roulette wheel and playing black or red and taking chances?
Also, is there enough of the vaccines out there?
I don't know, Chris, and I just looked at the old clock on the wall, and I got to run to the news, but call me when I've got more time. We'll discuss it again, okay?
I'm glad you're doing this.
All right, thank you. God bless everybody. We'll be back in 6. Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. Oh, my. Welcome back. Hour number 2 on a Monday morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell. Good morning with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I'll tell you what, these are really, really good folks. I've known Kelly and the crew for quite some time. They've been picking up our garbage right here at Zeb at the Ranch for a long time. Very dependable, very reliable, always at your disposal. You call them today, get on the route service, 734-6969. Locally owned and operated. That means a lot. They're serving all of Magic Valley, all the Mini-Cache area. You be sure and give them a call today, 734-6969, Western Waste Services. Really good folks. Also, when I say about good folks, I want to remind you that I'm so blessed to have the cream of the crop right here on this program, and that's, of course, also Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear friend Joel Heward, his family, his staff, always with flexible hours to serve you and give you family attention. Always with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please write the number down and call them, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, serving you. Let's go to the phone lines. I'm anxious to hear what this man has to say this morning, and without further ado, good morning to my dear friend Frosty Woolridge. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Zeb, and highest congratulations to the extraordinary football teams that played in the Super Bowl, and certainly that Katy Perry halftime rendition. But I'll tell you what, we're talking about a barn burner that we haven't seen since the since the Steelers, won against Arizona there with Kurt Warner way back a couple years back. But wow, talk about on the edge of your seat, extraordinary everything, incredible catches. That Kurt's catch was just beyond mind-boggling. So anyway, what a great celebration for America, a great celebration for the Super Bowl, for all the athletes, for all the fans. I'm thrilled for everybody. That was an American saga.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to get into that too deep this morning because I thought that play that was called was absolutely ridiculous for Seattle. But, that's hindsight. Easy for our armchair quarterbacks to criticize it, and I felt sorry for the Seahawks. But when you got the best running back, one of the best running backs in the NFL that can plow through anything and anybody, I would have still given it to him instead of pass over the middle that close to the goal line.
I would certainly agree. When you've got one of the greatest running backs, just a bull of a man who's not going to be denied and won't get stopped, I would have given it to Marshawn Lynch all 4 tries to go over the goal line, and without a doubt he would have gotten over the goal line on the 1 yard line. But again, we're all that receiver was a 6'5" receiver against a little 5'10" or 11 guy.
Yeah,
and just a little Butler guy just jumped in front of that route. That's what makes the sport, and that's what makes, whether it's basketball, baseball, hockey, or tennis, or any all of them. That's the glory of sport. No one has any idea what the outcome is going to be, and that's why we all love sports as much as we do, because everyone has a chance at some point on the athletic field, and last night was, of course, no exception.
Frosty, I've got so many things I want to mention to you this morning, and I know time is, we don't have that much, unfortunately, but one of the things I wanted to mention to you this morning, and I touched on it in the first hour, and you write for various columns and other blogs across the country. You're writing all the time. Excellent author. I've talked about it in my blog. Are we, as a society, worldwide, are we becoming immune to the barbarism of what's going on with ISIS and these beheadings? Are we just yawning and saying, ho-hum, another day, another victim? Are we treating this as commonplace? I mean, I'm sitting here and the atrocities that are being accrued by ISIS and beheading these people and putting their families and everyone through this mental torture. I just question, what in the world is the matter with us as a society that we're not making an all-out, full-court press to get these people and squash them like a bug?
Zeb, this is going to be the greatest question for America in the 21st century, and that is the impregnation of America with Muslims, and the whole Western world literally importing Muslims, and all of their tragedy as a religion, their tragic violence as a religion, as their way of life as a religion, their suppression of women's rights as a religion. And here's I just wrote a piece, and you can all see it on newswithviews.com tomorrow morning. It's called Impregnating America with Muslims. How do we stop Islam in the United States? Just recently, one imam stated unequivocally that Sweden is Europe's first Islamic state. Another, I included a video. Belgium will be completely Islamic within the next 20 years, just by loss of birth rate to the Muslim immigrants. And this guy in a 6-minute video just states, we're taking over Belgium. But here is the quote that is most terrifying for the 21st century, and it was said by President Teddy Roosevelt, and he presented to the American people back in 1908, I think it was. He said, and this is the most important quote for our entire existence as an American people and as a country and as a culture, and he said, and I quote, "The one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin, or preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all, would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities," unquote. Note in that passage, or preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all. That that quote, that portion of the quote, is just terrifying. One of my dear friends, longtime friends from Holland, a teacher, told me, she said, and I quote, "Within 5 years, we're going to have to face a civil war in our country. Our Muslim immigrants against us." And here's a quote from a Norwegian friend that I know, and he said, and I'm quoting right here, Norwegian women cannot walk alone anymore in Trondheim, Oslo, or Bergen for fear of being raped or killed by Muslim men who treat all women at the level of a mongrel dog. My Norwegian friend said, and I quote, "In Norway and Europe, some serious Muslim SH*T keeps building. This lifetime is going to get more and more exciting by the day, by the year. Bombs will start going off over here constantly. Going to be some serious pushing on Western life in our country. Millions of Muslims already here, and the birth rate off the scale. Every day, more coming in. And finally, the West has done it to itself, still doing it to itself. America is doing it to itself. It is going to be interesting to be here when hopefully in the future someone starts looking into who in the heck and why in the heck did we do this to ourselves. Mind-blowing to me, he said. Worst of all, it's not going to end well for any of us. Muslims push and we back up. They push some more and we run away. They keep pushing and we lose our country," unquote. That's some pretty heavy-duty quotes from people that are right there in Europe right now happening. And the fact is, we keep importing hundreds of thousands of Muslims into our country, and we are going to have the same kinds of consequences in our own country that accelerate as the Muslim population continues to grow in America. And to tell you the truth, Zeb, I don't think the American people are going to stand up to it any more than the Europeans, and we're going to see our country just literally lose itself into this Muslim onslaught, and you can also say the Mexican onslaught, because the immigration numbers still keep pouring in at 100,000 of these immigrants every 30 days.
Yeah,
so I am not optimistic.
You know, Frosty, I can't watch any more of those videos. I can't sit there and watch these newscasters treat these stories with such a kind of a blasé attempt at journalism. When I saw a composite, I was talking about this first hour, a composite of all the pictures of these poor souls that had been beheaded, from James Foley right on now to the Japanese Goto, the journalist from Japan. And I sat there and I thought, my God, is that the kind of a society we're living in today, that it's now almost commonplace to turn on the news, film at 11, but let's take a look at the beheadings of today. This is absolutely one of the most heinous things I've ever seen in my life. And I don't see a concentrated effort of the governments around the world to go, like I said a moment ago, and squash these villains like a bug.
Well, and as a matter of fact, they not only don't squash them like a bug, again, we continue to import more Muslims into France, into Spain, into Italy, into Austria, into Germany, into Holland, into Belgium, into the UK, into Norway. They're coming in by the plane loads. Into Sweden, the refugees. We're about, right now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I said this last week, but we're on tap to import 75,000 Islamic Syrian refugees from Syria here into the United States. The first wave of 9,000 is coming in this month, starting this month. That's what's happening. And no one is talking about it. No one's speaking up about it except you and me. You won't hear this conversation anywhere in the country. But I guarantee you that the consequences will continue to accelerate here in our country, so that we will see beheadings be a normal part of the American way of life. We already have the female genital mutilation by the tens of thousands happening in this country, and we have the honor killings in our country right now. So that's what's going on, and that's what's going to continue to accelerate with the importation of more Muslims.
I want to kind of shift gears here a little bit and go to another story while we have time this morning. And I want to give kudos to you for your insight and, quite frankly, foresight years and years ago on this program when you laid it out for us as to what's going to happen with the illegal aliens coming into this country and what's going to happen with a lack of immunizations. Now, right now, we are looking at 14 states that are reporting measles outbreaks due to the fact of unvaccinated youngsters. And there's a big fear, according to many, many doctors, that possibly the elderly will be put into this problem because the vaccines, they claim, may have worn off on people over 60. So here we go. We're seeing both ends of the spectrum possibly suffering, the young in our country and the elderly in our country, because of people that were selfish and people that were ignorant and didn't take care of immunization. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, I want everyone to understand that the President of the United States and the Congress are not protecting our borders. The Mexican border is as open today as it was when I visited 4 out of 5 years in a row, just a number of years ago. You can walk across the border with any kind of disease and you will not get caught. And when we just accepted 60,000 of those Central and South American and Mexican kids that came up and we just sucked them right into this country because they stormed our borders, we also sucked into this country all of their diseases, all of their literally all of their tuberculosis, all of their measles, whooping cough, dengue fever, you name it. I wrote about it. You know I wrote about it. And yet nobody is batting an eyelash. Well, pretty soon, as these diseases start manifesting in your own school district and in your own lives, you'll wonder, why didn't I say something? Why didn't my own government do something? Well, the fact is, our government, the people that are supposed to represent us in this constitutional republic, are not doing anything to stop anyone from coming across those borders, and that's been going on for 30 years, and of course the numbers are accelerating.
You know, we talk about this almost every week with the illegal aliens coming in, and now there are some that are trying to make it illegal to call them illegal aliens. There are actually congressmen that are trying to formulate the words on different bills so that they can't be called what they are. And this suppression of freedom of speech in our country and freedom of thought and freedom of respecting our Constitution and its values, what in the world is going on?
Reb, it's been said many times, if a country does not have borders, it's no longer a country.
That's right.
It's a destination. And we have become a destination. Again, 100,000 refugees come into this country every 30 days. That's 1.2 million per year. We're about to add, again, as I've said, dozens and hundreds of times, and no one is listening to this. I have tried to get on 60 Minutes. I've tried to get on Charlie Rose. I've tried to get in front of Matt Lauer. They'd rather interview somebody like Katy Perry who can sing well rather than some man named Frosty Woodridge who can speak well and understands the consequences that someday the Katy Perrys of this country are not going to be able to do anything because we're not going to have a country that's viable or sustainable. And yet we go to the glitz in this country rather than what we're facing as a civilization. And so I don't have any answer to that. We really are a foolish country, arrogant to the point of thinking that we're going to survive this multicultural morass and survive this religious conflict that's coming at us. It's terrifying to me because I know so much of what's coming into this country, whether it's sociological change or whether it's the demographic change or whether it's the language change or the ethos change or whether it's the diseases that are literally becoming... You see, diseases in third world countries manifest because of the kinds of ways that they live. Well, once they get here, they're doing the same kinds of things that they did in their old third world countries, and that's where the diseases will continue to manifest in our country. And yet the American people and the American government, the Congress, your two senators, and the House reps there in Idaho, They're not doing squat to change this, and that's why all of us become victims of it.
Frosty, the bottom line is, are they doing this, are they being our politicians, are they doing this for the purpose, the sole purpose of granting amnesty and citizenship to the millions and millions of illegal aliens purely to buy the votes of those people, to keep a more liberal society as a growth factor in this country?
That's a heck of a question. What is happening with this illegal invasion has to do with people who don't understand the consequences. The president, the last 4 presidents, 5 presidents, don't understand the consequences. They keep thinking in the 20th century, melting pot of America, and everybody's going to come in here and it's going to be kumbaya. It's already not kumbaya, and yet it's going to get worse. And some of them think, let's have all these people because they all have to have a house and they're going to buy a car and they're going to get a job. But in reality is they're overwhelming our system. We've got 48 million on food stamps. Obviously, they can't get a job, and we keep pouring more in here so they'll have more Marriott and certainly Holiday Inns will all have these maids working for $5 a day, essentially. And it's a new 21st century slave labor, and it's just maddening because they don't know the final, or they don't understand the final consequences of adding 100 million immigrants to this country from 140 to 180 different countries. And as I said, we're going to fracture, and we already are fracturing our country beyond recognition as the American country that you and I both knew. And no one's going to like the new America that's going to erupt out of this multicultural morass and this population overload, because it's going to explode in our faces. And I guarantee you 10 years from now, what you and I are talking about will definitely come to fruition, because 10 years from now we'll have 35 million more third world immigrants in this country. If anyone is so stupid to think that that's going to work out, you have got another thing coming.
Real quick, and I've only got 2 minutes left, so give me a short answer on this, Frost, but I was listening to a report that in the state of California right now, it could take as much as, and this knocked my socks off, as much as 3 months to get into the Department of Motor Vehicles to get your license changed, your driver's license changed, all because of now granting illegal aliens the right to have driver's license. They're so backlogged, they said it could take as much as 3 months. This is ludicrous.
It's going to get worse. I would invite you to go to www.capsweb.org, capsweb.org, run by Joanne Weidman. She is brilliant. She is doing everything she can to, and I write for capsweb.org. I'm a senior writing fellow there. But California is literally the bow of our Titanic as a nation, because it's got 38 million people right now, and because of mass immigration, both legal and illegal, it's on its way to going to 58 million people. If you think the lines are really terrible now in California for anything, and the traffic and the air pollution and the water shortages, just think what it's going to be when they add another 20 million immigrants.
Absolutely. Listen, man, it's always an education and inspiring to listen to you. I appreciate it. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado, I thank you so much for being on the program this morning. God bless.
And thank you, Zeb. And please, every person listening, get involved. See my columns in newswithviews.com and start taking action by pushing to get this issue to the forefront of the American people. Thank you so much,
You
Zeb.
bet, Frosty. See you next Monday. Thank you very, very much. All right, buddy. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Here, go peek around the corner. See? Oh, there it is. And I'll tell you what, you ought to stop into Whipple's Book Plaza at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Perfect gift for your Valentine. And if you mention that you heard this ad on Zeb at the Ranch, you'll receive 10% off on your purchase, except on already marked down items. They've got 3 floors of books and greeting cards and crafts and art supplies, everything. And it's also the home of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame and American Heritage Museum. Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley, wishing you and yours a very happy Valentine's Day. Also, Perkins Restaurant, 800 North Overland in Burley. Their Valentine's Day features are coast-to-coast classics, including the San Francisco shrimp stir fry. How about the Philly steak melt sandwich? Oh, that is one of my favorites. Monterey shrimp pasta, West Coast Cobb salad, all of this and much, much more at 800 North Overland in Burley, Perkins Restaurant. Great new items and just a delicious menu and bakery items that'll knock your boots off. Perkins Restaurant, 800 North Overland in Burley. And they say Happy Valentine's Day to you. All right. And, we've got just a minute. I'm going to tell you in just a couple of minutes, we're going to have the lovely Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom come on the program this morning with a couple of more very, very interesting and timely stories. Don't forget, let's ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn or Rupert and Burley. It's right there on Highway 24. Don't you miss it, where the fun is sold. Holy smokes. They've got all the Skidoo snowmobiles. They've got all the accessories. And I want to remind everybody now, and Deanne said to me, she said, you're telling everybody to take their ATVs in and get them serviced for spring. We better do the same thing. So we are. We're going to load them up, get them over there. And they've got a fantastic service department, people that really know their business. At Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn, Rupert and Burley. It's right there on Highway 24 where the fun is sold. You stop in and see them today. Want to remind you, too, that, let's see, we're going to have at 10:06 this morning, Mr. Martin Moyer on our program, and he is the one that a couple of years ago we had on the program that wrote the book called Twilight in America, and it's all about the Islamic terrorist camps that are right here in the United States of America. Don't miss that. That is coming up at 10:06 this morning, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have on my program the professionals of Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens with Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. I'm going to give you the number first so you can make an appointment to call them and discuss all your protection needs. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits. That's all at Cameron and Siemens Insurance serving you. All right, you give them a call at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you, your family, and your business. Okay, let's get ready. In just a moment, we're going to be going to the phone lines. Let's see if Gina has Carrie Kupek on the line. Good morning, Carrie. Pardon me.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
Oh, I just got a text from Gina, and she said she couldn't get a hold of you. It was ringing in my pocket as we speak, but now we have you. Thank you, Gina. Great job. Appreciate it. Carrie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, you always provide what seems to be a couple of stories that make me want to just take my fingernails and go down a chalkboard. They make me so mad. Tell us a little bit about what is going on in New York City to where in a vacant school on weekends they will not allow a church service to be held. What's going on here?
Sure. We're really seeing this second-class treatment of worship services in New York City public buildings. And this is actually Alliance Defending Freedom's longest-running case. If you can believe it, we have been litigating this and battling it out with New York City for 20 years now.
Oh, my.
And it's pretty crazy. And basically, the bottom line is that New York City opens its public school buildings after hours, so they're completely vacant. They've decided to do this. It's their choice, and they've opened it up for people to rent. And they rent it to community groups. They rent it to actually thousands of groups per year. And they rent it to religious groups. However, if you are a religious group that wants to worship God in that space that you're paying this, rent for, that you're, doing everything else that everybody else does, they say, no, you can't do it. And so we've taken this up to the Supreme Court. We've asked the Supreme Court to review this and really take a look at this specific discrimination against religious worship services, and we're hoping they take the case. They've set it to conference it, which means that's when they're going to talk about whether they're going to decide it on Friday, February 20th. So we'll be hearing after then if they take it or not.
All right, now I'm going to ask you some questions on this, Carrie, because, correct me if I'm wrong, back in the old days, weren't a lot of the schools used as churches on the weekend? And also, if this is an empty building, and they're not making any solicitation of any students or anything to be there at their worship service, and they don't leave any material there that would suggest the church has been there, what possible harm could they be doing?
Exactly. And actually, New York City is one of the few outliers that will not allow religious groups to hold worship services after hours. In fact, many cities and counties across this country say, yeah, of course it's fine. They have a right to access like everybody else does. They're signing the same forms. They're paying the same amount of rent. Clearly, no one's going to get the idea that, some public school on a Sunday morning suddenly has become some evangelical Baptist church because they meet there for 2 hours. And no one would think that. That defies common sense. And the thing is, if you as a public school open up your facilities for groups to rent, then you have to abide by certain constitutional rules. And those rules forbid express discrimination, like we see here, against religious expression and practices, when otherwise it would be permissible.
What do you think's going to happen? Give us the bottom line. 20 years of arguing over this, and I don't see any common sense here whatsoever, especially, I want you to revert back to what I said a moment ago, kind of the Little House on the Prairie aspect, where they, in a lot of times in the old days, all across from the East Coast out to the West, they used the schools during the week for educational facilities, and on weekends they just transformed the seats a little bit and used the same building for a church service. What happened? Why all of a sudden did that become taboo?
It's really hard to say, and I think people have a real severe misunderstanding of this concept of government and religion, and there's been a lot of just like total misunderstanding of how this all works and the interplay. But the bottom line is, to speak to your point and the big picture, churches do a lot of good things for their community. So, for instance, in New York City, I just want to rattle through these off, right? They help feed the poor and needy. They do drug rehab programs. They donate computers. They donate air conditioning systems. They provide after-school care. And this thing in Bronx Household of Faith is the case of the church that this case centers around. I've been there. It's in a very, it's in a low-income area in the Bronx. I used to work right down the street there for a couple of years, and I'm very familiar with the area. And this church and churches like it are, in some ways, often providing the only hope and stability that a community has. And this is not taxpayer money. This is a private group providing services to those people who need it most. So why in the world would a city government say, let's not have you do this? It's really, they're shooting themselves in the foot, and it's a problem, and it's unconstitutional.
Carrie, there's an old saying, follow the money. Who really are the people that have the deep pockets, that have so much animosity against keeping this church and a value to the community with all the welfare that you just mentioned? Who really are the money people that are saying, no way, we're going to try to stop this?
It's really hard to say, but what's going to be interesting is, say the Supreme Court doesn't take the case, and they say, they don't address it. Because I want to mention that right now there's a temporary order in place that is allowing these churches to meet. But should the Supreme Court deny it, there's all kinds this order will not stay forever, obviously. So then an interesting scenario was presented. New York City, so the mayor's office can actually change the policy that discriminates against religious groups holding worship services in, vacant public school space. So it's going to be interesting to see if Mayor de Blasio does so, because previously when he was campaigning for the mayor's office, he went to a lot of rallies where, local community groups and pastors were protesting this unconstitutional policy that New York City has been implementing, and he expressed his support again and again. He said, look, if, these groups are paying the same amount of money, they're doing all the same paperwork, it doesn't seem fair that we say they can't meet, but everybody else can. Now, so what's going to be interesting is if the Supreme Court doesn't take this, is he going to put his money where his mouth was, right? So we'll see what he does, because it is within his hands to change this policy.
Is the church, per se, asking for anything special, like being able to hang a shingle out on the wall that says that it is a church? Are they asking to do anything that would basically tell the community after their worship service on Sunday that they are there on a permanent basis? Is there anything that they're asking for permanency? Is that what the gripe is?
Yeah, there's no permanency issue at all. It's simply they just want to be able to rent space for the worship service, just like every other group is allowed to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other story that you talked about this morning, and we want to discuss, and of course this rings really close to me because it's at a school and a location where I used to go to college, and that's the University of Wisconsin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And a story about hospitals letting disabled patients starve to death. What in the world is this all about?
It's very concerning because I think we would agree that every human being is endowed with a right to live, a right to life. And unfortunately, the University of Wisconsin hospitals and clinics don't seem to be sharing that sentiment with some of their practices, specifically with two developmentally disabled patients. You had these two developmentally disabled patients. They were not in a persistent vegetative state. They were not terminally ill, yet this hospital system denied them care, or pressured the family to deny them care, and the 13-year-old boy died, and the 79-year-old woman survived. And according to court order and according to state law, a hospital can withhold treatment only if the patient has received this, persistent vegetative state diagnosis or has expressed a desire to refuse life-sustaining treatment. And neither patient fit these qualifications.
Now, wait a minute. I've got to jump in here. Let's talk about the 13-year-old boy. Can you give me a synopsis of what his condition was and why they would even think about allowing him to literally starve to death? What were the parameters of his case?
Sure. They had one meeting with him, the doctors, no physical exam, no observation of his daily life, no consultation with his long-term care team. But for some reason, they agreed to withhold treatment from him because of his quote-unquote poor prognosis and poor quality of life. And the physicians took him under their care. They cut off all his antibiotics for pneumonia. He had pneumonia. They eliminated his nutrition and hydration, sent him to hospice, and he died.
Okay, now, Carrie, this one is just absolutely making the hair stand up on the back of my neck, because are we going to be looking at what was conceived of Obamacare and the worry of Obamacare to where there would be death panels that would make an assertion as to whether certain individuals could receive health care and or basically be allowed to die? Who is going to make and who is making a definition of quality of life?
Exactly, and you raise a very, very good point. And I think what exacerbates this particular situation is these two individuals had disabilities. But certainly having a disability shouldn't be a death sentence. And no matter how you look at the situation, neither patient was in an end-of-life situation. So if we allow doctors and physicians and hospitals to get away with this kind of really culture of death behavior, it puts all vulnerable patients at risk, to speak to your point. Exactly. It's very concerning, and it's something that everyone should be concerned about.
Well, the number one question that comes to mind in my case of thinking about this 13-year-old boy, okay, bingo, where's the family?
Right, exactly. And, I don't know if if anyone has dealt with these kind of situations, oftentimes what the hospital does and the doctors do is they pressure the family. And sometimes they can even make kind of threats, and it's a very concerning situation. They paint pictures a certain way that the patient needs to be done, and oftentimes families find themselves in battling hospitals to save their own family member's life, even when that family member is not in an end-of-life situation. And what's really ironic about that kind of situation is that physicians just by the nature of what they do, they have a duty to protect and support their patients' lives to the best of their knowledge and ability. And state-employed physicians, like the ones here, have an even greater responsibility. So, Alliance Defending Freedom has filed a friend of the court brief at the Supreme Court level in Wisconsin, adding on to this lawsuit against the hospital saying, look, you 100% violated the patient's fundamental right to life here.
I've got so many questions on this, and another question that keeps coming up in my mind, was there, on behalf of the hospital and the doctors, a lack of payment and or insurance and or coverage that the hospital and the doctors conjured that would not ever be paid to them? Is that why this decision was made, based on economics? I mean, give me some of the story there.
Well, I certainly hope not, and I can't speak to that specifically, but the mere fact that this 13-year-old boy was not in a persistent vegetative state, his family had not refused, this care that you need to in order to fulfill the rule in the state. This hospital really messed up very badly, and now someone's life suffered because of it, and this child is dead. And so it's really important that the Wisconsin Supreme Court take a very close look at the situation, because, again, even though it's just specific to Wisconsin, it certainly sends a message to the rest of the United States that says, look, we support life. We want people to live if they can live, not die. And we certainly don't want hospitals making decisions about who lives and who dies when people can certainly live and they want to live.
You know, Carrie, let me just take a moment and embellish a little bit about this story as it pertains to another story. Where I was born and raised back in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, less than 5.5 miles away from our farm was a location called St. Coletta School. And I'll give you a little background on this. It was for people perhaps like this 13-year-old boy. And as a matter of fact, when I was growing up in Wisconsin, a very, very famous person was put in that facility. It was the sister of John, Bobby, and Ted Kennedy. The Kennedys had put her in that school and care center for basically the rest of her life. She was totally incapacitated, just similar to what this boy might have been, but there was a value to her life. And have we got away from that to the point where this boy's life at 13 is deemed unnecessary by medical science? This really bothers me.
And it should bother you, because yes, we have gotten away. I mean, people have lost the idea that really is vital to a healthy, flourishing society, that every life matters. Everyone deserves a chance to live. And, I mean, I'll give you it's not exactly related to this story, but for instance, there's a staggering statistic out there that something like 92% of women, or 90%, something like that, who are tested when they're pregnant, if their child will have, developmental disabilities and Down syndrome, 90% choose to abort that child.
Oh.
This is why you don't see kids with Down syndrome walking around anymore. And it's staggering and so upsetting. And so we have this idea, and I don't know when this came into our society, that certain lives matter and certain ones don't. And but like you said earlier, who makes this call? Every person that is conceived should deserves a chance to live, and who's to say what that life will hold and how they'll affect others. And it's really a shame, and this situation in Wisconsin certainly epitomizes what we're seeing in that regard.
One last question. I know we're running way over, but I've got to take the time to ask this. What about the most fundamental Hippocratic oath of the doctors themselves to save lives?
100%.
Yeah. What about this?
Exactly. Clearly they're forgetting it, and like you said, I mean, doctors take an oath to protect, preserve life. This is why people go into the medicine field, because they want to help people sustain their lives, to have a quality of life, not to go in there and say, I don't know, I don't think that you should live because of X. I mean, we're not talking, like in these two situations, these people were not terminally ill, and they were not in a persistent vegetative state. Therefore, the hospital had no right to do what they did and absolutely violated their constitutional right to live.
You really know how to trip my trigger, I'll tell you that, because I really am asking you if you'll give me follow-ups on these stories, because these stories mean a lot. I want to know. I want to know the bottom line. So the minute you get any other information, please let me know as soon as possible. Would you do that?
I will absolutely do so.
Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom, Legal Communications Director. How do people follow these stories and others with ADF? Tell us, please.
They can go to alliancedefendingfreedom.org, or if they want to look at some of the cases on a more in-depth basis and they want to look at the legal documents themselves, they can go to adsmedia.org.
Wow, I am just so incensed over that story about that 13-year-old boy. Carrie, thank you, and I mean this when I say it. God bless you for all the information you do and help us with, and I'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Zeb.
God bless. Thank you. Wow. Man, I'm just sitting here, and I'm going to talk to Gina about this in a minute. She's a mom of a young boy, and I want to just get her opinion on this. First of all, we're going to have the weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by some really, really good friends of ours. Urgent Care of Jerome at 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. The number to call, these are good folks, at 324-2004. 324-2004. Minor emergencies, well, major care. They will see you today. Don't forget to call that number, 324-2004. Urgent Care of Jerome. Absolutely. Ear infections, sprains, strains, fractures, whatever, they treat everyday injuries and illnesses. We'll have more about these folks in just a minute, but right now, here's Michael Rogers with the weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch, start of our brand spanking new week and month with you, me, and yucky weather, although it's going to be not yucky for the entire month, but for today and tomorrow, you got rain in the forecast. Temperatures, daytime highs in the low 50s. Overnight lows, a little bit warmer, but not as bad as it could be. Pretty much in the upper 30s. Otherwise, you're going to stay cloudy with rain, and toward the end of the week, it's going to be just mostly cloudy as you work your way toward the weekend. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. Urgent Care of Jerome, bringing you the weather this hour, and they're located at 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Number to write down on the dashboard of your pickup, and remember at 324-2004. Gina, are you over there by the microphone?
No, I ran away.
Okay, well, don't run too far. I cannot imagine. Now, Kennedy's, coming 8, right?
There'll be 8 next month.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Remind me what day we'll do a special deal for his birthday. Okay. But I can't imagine the coldness and the absolute uncaring attitude that is being developed in this country and other countries around the world, that if someone or a group of someones deem you or I or a child or whomever not necessary and not worth their life being expanded upon or kept, they basically can say, that's it. They're playing God and eliminating that person as a problem. This is just absolutely disgusting to me.
I agree, and it's really heartbreaking, the story of that little 13-year-old boy. There's so many things that I don't know about the story, but it's very, very sad that they deem such a young life disposable.
Well, here's the thing. The 13-year-old boy was starved to death. He was not, and I want to amplify this, he was not in a persistent vegetative state. He was not terminally ill. And someone makes a decision because of what they clinically said was developmentally disabled. They're going to make a decision that that person's life is not of value. Okay, now where do you draw the line here? What about Down syndrome? What about somebody born with a cleft palate? What about somebody born like I was and then at 5 years of age developed polio? I mean, where do you draw the line on your death panel, Gina?
I don't, that's a line that the family needs to be making, not a line.
No, I don't think so. I disagree with you, not even the family. What right does anybody have when a person is not on death's door, not a vegetable, and not terminally ill? What right does another human being have to say, let's just discard him?
No, they don't. Nobody has the right to say that.
This scares me. This really scares me because think of all the people you know, and I know you know people that fall into this category that might not have been born with a silver spoon of goodness like everybody else, and they have health problems, whatever. Are we going to start discarding them as unwanted and not usable in our society?
Apparently we already have.
I mean, I am so repulsed by this story that I'm going to call the University of Wisconsin Medical Center. I'm going to try to do a little detective work on my own on this, because who's to say that they are God?
Nobody's God.
Oh, my goodness. This story just sickens me. And, you know, I asked her at the end of that conversation, if you were listening, what value to doctors now is the Hippocratic Oath?
A lot of doctors, this is my own personal opinion, I don't think a lot of doctors are abiding by the Hippocratic Oath anymore. I think honestly the Hippocratic Oath has gone by the wayside.
It's a duty.
It is a duty.
To protect and support their patients' lives to the best of their knowledge and ability and their schooling and their education, the medicines available to them. Is that just a foregone conclusion? They're not going to do it anymore?
Probably.
Holy mackerel. What kind of a society are we living in? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get on a soapbox, but this really bothers me. So, anyway, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to say how much we appreciate Christine Pickup with Mount Harrison Audiology. You know, she sent me some really interesting facts. About 2 to 3 people of every 1,000 children are hard of hearing or deaf, and about 20% of the adults in the United States, that's over 48 million people, are having some degree of hearing loss. Oh my goodness. And it can be avoided. It can be avoided. It can be helped. Please give her a call today. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Number to call, 312-0957. Please remember that number. I'll say it again, 312-0957. Excellent lady, and she can help you. Oh, by the way, now all I got to do is find it. You got to remember that my bookkeeping system is a little lax as we go through things here this morning. I'll have that on in just a few minutes, as a matter of fact. Don't forget, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I got to tell you how much I really appreciate everything that's going on with the Alliance Defending Freedom, and they've been a part of our program now for many, many years, and thanks to Carrie Kupek for all that she has done, and we'll certainly look forward to having her back on the air. I want to say a welcome to a sponsor this morning, an advertiser that we really appreciate, and that's Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center. These are wonderful people at 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. They were recently awarded a 5-star rating from the government, the highest rating awarded to skilled nursing facilities. That is really, really something right there in Burley. And it's a nursing home providing medical nursing service for seniors with serious illnesses or disabilities 24 hours a day. Please call them. Find out more. 677-3073. 677-3073. Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center, serving your family. They'll never forget that you're the valued guest and the reason that they're where they are at Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center. We're going to take a little break, and I'm going to prepare to have the gentleman on my program that, like I said, I haven't had him on for almost 2 years, and that's Martin Moyer. And he wrote the book called Twilight in America, and it just absolutely was an eye-opener for me and many, many others that have received the book. It's all about the Islamic terrorist training camps inside our country, of America. And this gentleman, Martin Moyer, president of the Christian Action Network, and he's just recently, they've released a film and a video, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that also. So buckle your seatbelts and get ready for a really interesting segment at 10:06 this morning. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're expecting a phone call from our dear friend, Representative Fred Woods, from up at the legislative session, and we're going to be looking forward to have a conversation about what's happening at the session, kind of an update, so don't you go away. Zeb at the Ranch will be back in about 6 minutes right here on K-Bar 1230.
But I decided, well, let's go check it out. Let's see what the real issue is going on in Europe. So we began some research here in the United States and discovered that Europe was in a bit of a turmoil, but we didn't know exactly how badly. So we packed up our bags and started making trips to England, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Brussels, Spain, Switzerland, Italy, just about every country over there. Started interviewing the Muslim leaders and the political leaders and the activists and business owners, and we came away with a rather shocking story to tell that we put in our film called Europe's Last Stand, America's Final Warning.
Let me ask you this, Martin. In your research and your visitation with many Muslims around the globe, as a matter of fact, do you find that there are two classifications of Muslims? Are there those that absolutely abhor the violence? Are there those that are absolutely embarrassed as to how the faith is being slurred? Or do they speak up at all?
Well, I wouldn't say any of them speak up against the radical Islamists at all. I thought it was interesting. We did speak to quite a few imams who, and those are the religious leaders of the Muslim faith, who were very determined that they would conquer Europe and they would conquer the United States, and their flags would fly over the capitals of all Western European nations, and including the United States of America. Then we spoke to other imams who at least indicated to us that they wanted to try to integrate. But the strange thing, whenever you talk to them and you bring up such issues as the radical Islamists, they would kind of deny they even exist. For instance, I thought one was a bit strange and maybe perhaps funny. In England, we went to a rather huge mosque there and interviewed the imam and some of the other leaders there. And we were talking about Al-Qaeda, and they wouldn't even admit that Al-Qaeda exists. So even though they weren't taking a radical position that we could find on anything, they were also very dismissive that any imam out there is promoting radical ideas.
Let me ask you this, and I want to phrase this correctly, whether it's Admiral Kirby, whether it's Secretary of State John Kirby, or whether it's Obama himself as president, there seems to be a great reluctance, more so every day, to call it what it is. And basically I'm talking about Muslim jihad, Muslim terrorists, Islamic terrorism, whatever. Why? Why is this country so afraid of Muslims right now?
Well, probably pretty much the reason why European nations are afraid of calling these terrorists Islamic terrorists. There's a true guilt in Europe about their past, and we now have leaders running our country who feel guilty about America's past. And we believe, I'm speaking for these leaders now, that the wrath that is being inflicted upon Western European countries and Muslims in particular is because of our sins of the past. And if we would just apologize for those sins of the past and change our wayward Western ways and not further the problem by insulting these people as making them out to be terrorists, maybe they would stop attacking us. So it's kind of a political correct, very non-aggressive solution to trying to deal with the problem of radical Islam. So you have to ignore it, and what you can't ignore, you pretty much say you deserve anyway. And we are learning our lesson. We're going to change our way. We're not going to be the United States or the Western European countries that we once were, and you will see that we have rehabilitated ourselves, and therefore we're assuming you'll stop attacking us.
You know, I mentioned in the first hour of my program today, sir, that, and it's absolutely disgusting to me that we're allowing atrocities like the beheadings that are taking place with ISIS, this barbarism, to almost become commonplace to where we're blasé about it on our newscasts, etc. Why isn't there more of an outreach program worldwide with all the countries in the world that are left with any decency to go get these people and squash them like bugs?
Yeah, can you imagine back in World War II, FDR or Harry Truman or any of our government leaders being so blasé about the fact that Americans would be beheaded in any of these countries and not expressing much outrage and not coming up with a plan to deal with it? I just don't expect any particular change there, Zed. I think with the current leadership in America and the current leadership in Western Europe, you're not going to see a lot of outrage, because once you express outrage and imply that these people are doing something you don't deserve, then you're just going to get more of what they're doing. And they're under this strategy. This strategy is what they've locked themselves into, and they're not going to change it simply because Americans or Europeans or Orientals are being beheaded at the hands of these terrorists.
Now, in your book, Twilight in America, there is a section in your book towards the end of the book called The Politics of Denial. And, you know, that's so apropos for what's happening with this Obama administration. You, as a person that really understands and knows more about, I think, the problem in America and around the world than they do, are you able to speak to them? Are other people able to speak to them? Are there other groups that can maybe get the information out so that America is not so naive?
This has been a challenge, right? Because I think we've produced perhaps about 6 documentaries so far. And if it wasn't for Fox News, we probably wouldn't get any national media exposure on the book or the videos that we have produced. This has been going on quite some time amongst the liberals in the liberal media, and that is to shut conservatives completely out so Americans never ever see their message. Quite frankly, I've been doing this business for 30 years now, and I remember way back when, in the 80s, the media would be all over the so-called white ring groups, asking them to come on the air to tell them what their beliefs were, because they thought at that time that the American people would hear what conservatives had to say and start laughing at them and just run them out of town. But the absolute opposite happened. People heard what they had to say, and they began to change their political view. And conservatives gained more and more power, both in state legislatures and in Washington, D.C. So then the media developed a second strategy, and that is, and one they're using now, is to keep them completely off the air totally and not get any airwaves to their voice. But on the other hand, they can't stop the message from getting out, because there's been a lot of conservative talk shows such as yourself that have popped up, and the widespread use of internet news media, that our message still gets out there, but it's a lot more challenging than I would say it was in the late 70s and the mid-80s.
Let me ask you this, sir, and again, with your knowledge, I'm sure you have the answer. What about the Muslim Brotherhood and the infiltration and, quite frankly, the appointments of such people to this administration? I mean, don't you sit back and scratch your head and ask, what in the world are they doing?
Well, yeah, I scratch my head all the time, every day, right, Seb? I'm sure you are, too. We're probably going to go bald from scratching our head watching what's going on with our nation's leaders. The Muslim Brotherhood is particularly challenging for any of us to try to wrap around our heads, especially since Egypt itself, the birthplace of the Muslim Brotherhood, has called them a terrorist organization. They're not allowed in Saudi Arabia, and they're not allowed in Qatar. So you got to think, if the Muslim countries themselves believe that they are a terrorist organization, why in the world would our leaders open their arms and invite them into the White House into policy sessions? It's mind-boggling. There's no other explanation for it. other than they are sold on their strategy, and that strategy is to appease these Muslims so that they will not attack us any longer.
Let me ask you this question, Martin, and I question every day when I turn on the news as to how the CNNs, the ABCs, CBSs, and NBCs have been duped into a coordinated effort of basically calling people like me on my talk show bigots and hate mongers and Islamophobes because we question what's going on with the Islamic movement in America.
Well, this is a typical childhood bullying tactics, isn't it? Where if you don't have a good, rational explanation of your point of view, you simply bully the other person by calling them names. This is like grade school, recess type of argumentative tactics that the liberals are using nowadays. They have no ground logically to stand on. So the only thing they can do now is simply call you names. Call you a racist, call you an Islamophobe, call you a homophobe, call you a Nazi. That's all they have left in their ammunition to confront you. Now, they're not going to bring you on their TV show, so you have a voice to explain away any of these horrible monikers. They're not going to do that. So they know they can get by just simply wrapping you around some type of hate-mongering logo, and you have to walk with your head between your legs, and there's not really any way that you can respond to it.
We're seeing Christianity attacked on every aspect. We're seeing Christianity belittled. We're seeing attacks on Christians, but yet the reverse is not happening. If, like Al-Qaeda said this past weekend, a spokesman for Al-Qaeda said, death to anyone and everyone that mocks or criticizes the Prophet Muhammad. And they seem to have the entire news media afraid to death. It's okay to go after Christians, but I don't think we'll ever see a fair assessment of Islam in this country. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't think you'll see it in what you would call the mainstream media as a fair assessment of Islam. But, we both understand what the goal is of these Islamists. And for these secular liberal media types to think that they're not part of the target of these radical Islamists, it's just being foolhardy, and it's putting their head buried into the sand, because they are in as much threat and difficulty as any Christian out there that would rise up and speak against it.
Politically speaking, Martin, and I'm not trying to ask you your preference on possibly another nominee to run for president, but when we look at the Obama administration and we look at possibly if Hillary Clinton accepts the nomination and does run for president, it's going to go from bad to worse. But really, can we, with the right political leadership, turn this boat around?
No, I don't think so, and I hate to be that negative, but it's just my personal belief. I'm sure other people would disagree with me, but this country needs more than just political leaders that you go in and vote yes and no for to change this country around, because this country has steeped itself into a godless society, and simply putting new leaders in place is not going to make a big difference in America. Look, the biggest problem that comes out of this is what they're teaching our kids in the public schools. So I don't care who the President of the United States is, or who you elect to Congress, or possibly your governor, is not going to change the very strange teachings that's being pummeled into the minds of little kids, and what they're being taught. It's abysmal, and I just don't see it happening at the voting booth.
Well, now, I've got to ask you this, and I don't want to end our conversation on just complete negativity, but we have to have some bright light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully it's not a train coming at us head on. I mean, is there any optimism at all in fighting this force, which seems to be like a cancer growing all over the world?
I think the only hope is that the churches of America wake up to the threat of not only radical Islam, but secularism and atheism and humanism as well. and get into their congregations, and rather than talking and preaching all about how you need to be a good Christian and how wealth will come to you if you are, they need to actually tell these people how to become a good American citizen, to stand up for the country and get involved. We still have churches in this country. They're kind of fading in Western Europe. It's very hard to find any church that's filled over there. But you still have a lot of churches with a lot of ears listening to a lot of pastors who, if they change their tune, can instruct a great many and millions of Americans out here how to change this country around. So no to the voting booth, but a positive yes to pastors and preachers and priests that have the ear of their congregation that can perhaps turn the hearts around of the American public to start paying attention to what's going on, take back this country, and take back their schools, and take back their news media, and take back their government offices.
Tell me quickly in the time remaining about the Christian Action Network. I mean, is it expanding? Is it getting much more popular? More people involved? What can we do to support you and what you're trying to do?
Well, we have been around for 25 years now. We started in 1990. It's 2015, so we're celebrating a quarter of a century here, so we're happy about that. And we managed to survive through tough times during those years. Supporting us is simply to support our projects that we're doing. This project now of getting our film out there for Europe's Last Stand, it's a miracle that film was ever produced, and we don't have enough time to talk about that. But if you can imagine a group of people out of Lynchburg, Virginia, going to Europe to tell this story and doing a couple dozen trips over there to be able to do it, that was a miracle by itself. So it was very, very costly. So supporting us is getting our films and showing them to other people and helping us distribute them. Get it into the hands of the church leaders and civics groups. Get it in the hands of your elected officials and your pastors and in some cases even your sheriff and your police department, especially in regard to our film called Homegrown Jihad.
I want to say how much I'm very proud and honored to have you on my program. Your book, when I read it, it absolutely stunned me with the knowledge and everything that was brought to the forefront about Islam in America. Twilight in America, the author, Martin Moyer, and also they have a new film called Europe's Last Stand through the Christian Action Network. Martin, I want to invite you back on the program in the near future. Thank you so much for sharing with us this morning.
Hey, Zeb, thanks for having me on, and I look forward to the time we can get back and chat again.
All right, sir. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you so much.
God bless you, too. Bye-bye.
Wow. This book, and I suggested it's just one of the great, great books that I've read in a long time, and you've heard me visiting with my dear friend Tony from Twin Falls. It's called Twilight in America, and the subheadline is The Untold Story of Islamic Terrorist Training Camps Right Here inside America. And I also suggest that you look it up, Christian Action Network, and that new film, Europe's Last Stand, Martin Moyer with the Christian Action Network as the president. Excellent book, excellent film. Thank you very much, Martin Moyer, for being on the program. We got to pay some bills here real quick, and we'll look over here at my sheet, and we will tell you that on Thursdays we have a segment on our program called School Days in Cassia County, and it's brought to you by two wonderful businesses, and one, of course, is A Child's World at 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley, and believe me, if you're going to be having a baby shower, they've got everything over at A Child's World for that baby. Everything. And by the way, too, they got games, they've got other clothing for the family, such as the scrubs, they've got all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs, all there at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And also our thanks go to the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley, and they now have Dr. Michael Coughlin, a foot surgeon well established in the Northwest. He's going to be seeing patients at the Ambulatory Surgery Center starting this week on February 6th. 6th. So if you've got foot problems, there's the man to see, Dr. Michael Coughlin at the Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley. Both those great folks, we say thank you for bringing you school days in Cassia County. By the way, real fast, happy Valentine's Day wishes go out from the bookstore at 515 5th Street in Rupert. They've got all the caramel-filled chocolate hearts. Wow, they are delicious, and all the fudge and fudge dips, cinnamon bears, and jewelry and Valentine's Day cards. They've got it all for you right there at the bookstore, 515 5th Street on the square in Rupert. You stop over and see them today. And don't forget, stop into Dreams Day Spa and Salon at 123E 23rd. And that's drive-in right there in Burley. Yes, sirree, the Valentine special. And this one's from Carol at Dreams Day Spa. Get that special lady a permanent and a makeup. Oh, my goodness. She'll never have to do her eyebrows or eyeliner again. Absolutely. A complimentary facial is also included thanks to Carol at Dreams Day Spa. And that's 123E 23rd in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Happy Valentine's Day. Deanne, could you come in here for a second, please? Call her real fast. I've only got 30 seconds. Make it really, really quick.
Okay, the big problem we're having today, Zeb, in my opinion, is the fact that the young children are being programmed in our schools to accept anything that the government tells them to do.
I agree. Tony, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Martin Moyer. We're going to have him back. Thank you so much. And I got to run to the studios, and we'll turn it over to Gina. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Thank you.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, my goodness sakes. I think what I'm going to do is the weather real quick before we get Representative Fred Wood on the program, so I don't have to interrupt him. And the weather is brought to everybody this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. The very best of beef, pork, lamb, wild game processing. They guarantee everything that they sell. And believe me, they serve all of Southern Idaho, selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is in the ranch. Start of a brand spanking new week and month. The humid and yucky weather, although it's going to be not yucky for the entire month, but for today and tomorrow, you got rain in the forecast. Temperatures, daytime highs in the low 50s. Overnight lows, a little bit warmer, but not as bad as it could be. Pretty much in the upper 30s. Otherwise, you're going to stay cloudy with rain, and toward the end of the week, it's going to be just mostly cloudy as you work your way toward the weekend. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael, and Don Scarrow and the rest of the folks over at Scarrows Meats. Absolutely wonderful. Beef processing, pork, lamb, wild game. Oh, the best. It is delicious. You got to try one of their ribeyes and their prime ribs. Oh, my goodness sakes, you're going to love it. At Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Selling taste one bite at a time. Let's go to the phone lines right now. A gentleman that is just absolutely a good friend of ours and has been so helpful, Representative Fred Wood, up at the 2015 legislative session. Fred, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
I am good, and it's so nice to hear from you. And here we go. We're well into the legislative session for this year, and I'll let you give us a little bit of a recap as to what's been happening and what we need to talk about this morning.
Well, Zeb, first of all, thanks for having me on, and I hope it's raining and snowing back home, particularly in the mountains. But what's going on down here in Boise, 3 or 4 things. First of all, with education, I'm not sure anybody has actually figured out which direction that the ship is eventually going to go. Superintendent Ibarra presented her program to JFAC on Thursday. There was not a lot of substance there in terms of detail, mostly just a general direction. So that didn't add any direction, if you will, as to which way we ought to go. With respect to transportation, I think the only thing that everybody agrees to is that if we're going to maintain the infrastructure that we have, particularly bridges, but to a significant extent, a lot of local roads, county roads, and state roads that are vital to our commerce, we're going to have to raise some significant revenue. But I can tell you, Zeb, there is no consensus whatsoever as to how to raise that revenue. If you remember correctly, a couple of weeks ago, you and Scott and Dean and I and a few others sat around the table and talked about the real problems of developing a consensus about transportation. And I can tell you nothing has been solved since that conversation a couple of weeks ago.
Let me interrupt. Can I interrupt you right there, Fred, and ask a question? With the infrastructure, the bridges and the roads, every state's got problems. Ours has plenty. We've got some holes on various roads right now that will swallow up a small car. And we know that we need to have money for the infrastructure, but we're looking at now on a national level, where I just heard this last week that Congress might entertain thoughts of $1 a gallon gas tax increase at a time when our economy is shaky at best and starting to recover. People have more spendable income now because of lower gas prices. If the federal government puts $1 on the gas tax, and then we have to look at an increase in the gas tax for state funding, pretty soon you won't have anybody driving anywhere.
Well, I think that the assumption that anybody's going to put $1, let alone, I mean, 50 cents or anything else of that magnitude on fuel taxes, that certainly the state of Idaho isn't going to go around there. If the feds put much of a gas tax on, that's essentially going to preclude the state from putting any gas tax on, I think. You know, here's one of the real issues with fuel taxes. Crude oil is at, 49 bucks a gallon, or a barrel now, depending upon the daily fluctuation. But does anybody seriously think that's going to stay that way long term?
No.
Sure, if crude oil stayed at $50 a barrel, you know, you could get away with some fairly significant fuel taxes, nowhere in the realm of $1, for goodness sakes, and not hurt the economy. But if in 6 months crude oil's back to $100 a barrel, you can't do anything like that. I'm not sure what they're talking about, but I don't foresee that. That's crazy.
Okay, but you need the money. We need the money in the states. Can it go to the point where the states would be liable in assessing those fees? I mean, I look at the federal government, and I told you this at dinner that night. Anytime the federal government wants to impose a bigger and larger tax from me, and then I know that Obama has come out over the last couple of days and say he wants to increase spending, right away I throw red flags up and say, okay, you earmark that money that can't be touched for anything but transportation, I'll go along with it. But if you touch that for anything else, like hamsters on a treadmill, I'm going to come get you.
Well, I wouldn't even rely on that kind of a lockbox, because eventually they'll figure out how to get rid of the lockbox. And so what you can't do, Zeb, is even go there in the first place. What you have to have is a modest increase that takes care of the problem over time. And you can't raise it all in a single year, etc. And the fact is that, and this is why education is going to be a real struggle this year in the Idaho legislature for this reason. Both the governor and the superintendent of public instruction are asking for like a 7% increase in education spending. Well, if you do that, that takes away every dollar of every increase from every other department in state government, because K through 12 gets 50% of all the money. And the legislature is the Idaho legislature, even the Democrats here are more conservative than a bunch of Republicans are in 25 or 50% of the states, for goodness sakes. Even they agree that you cannot year over year start spending more than about 3.5% on state government, or you're going to run into a real problem.
Right.
So are you going to give all of the entire increase in state government spending this year to education? You can choose to do that if you want, but then what are you going to do for everybody else? So the struggles up here, Zeb, are just beginning.
Well, is it, I want to go back to Sherry Ibarra for a minute. Is it a lack of experience? Is it a lack of doing her homework? Is it a lack of what? That she didn't propose a budget that was more comprehensive and really spelled things out? Just doesn't she understand? Or has she not sat down and reviewed all the different things that need to be done?
Well, Zeb, I think all of us that start into politics, when we're out campaigning for the first time and we've never had to make a budget, don't really understand the long-term complications of making a budget. And here is somebody who hopefully will do the right thing, but expectations were built for her that she had no control over. And now she's got to run up against those expectations full force, and she better have the political will to say, wait a minute here, this isn't going to work. And she better start building her own expectations of what's reasonable, because otherwise the legislature will build those expectations for her.
And as they should. You and I have talked many, many times privately and then also on this radio program that throwing money at something of a problem isn't exactly a cure-all and a panacea, is it?
Typically makes it worse, not better.
Absolutely. Now, education and then transportation, but those surely aren't only the worries that you've got in this session. What else is going on?
Oh, well, on Thursday, the week before that, Fish and Game introduced a fee bill. And to be perfectly honest, my emails are running about 95% in favor of that fee increase. It's about a 20% fee increase. It's mostly all residents, because we're starting to get pretty out of whack with resident versus non-resident. And the courts have pretty much held that you got to keep that ratio about 10-1 in terms of cost for licenses and tags, etc. I did not expect the resistance to that fee increase in committee on Thursday. When they got done, there was not the votes to pass it. We held it, and had we forced a vote, it would have died in committee without ever having a hearing. There is a compromise bill that's being worked on at this point in time to include that fee increase. The fee increase won't change. However, there are some real issues with the way that some of the programs are being managed that are causing some people a lot of heartburn. I met Saturday Senator Cameron and I, Speaker Bedke unfortunately had to be up at the ranch taking care of business there, but we met with several landowners on the Utah front that are having major depredation problems with their crops, and particularly elk. And those folks are not happy at all. And I'm not sure Fish and Game has gone about the business of trying to help those people to the best of their ability.
Let me ask you this.
So there's a couple of three issues about depredation. There's issues about access. There's issues about landowner appreciation, permits, etc., that will receive 2 weeks of thorough discussion here in the legislature, working with the department and working with the affected user groups, landowners, sportsmen, etc., and trying to craft something that we can get through the legislature, because as of right now, Zeb, that's dead. Until we get something fixed.
You know, Fred, I'm not trying to say that any kind of an increase wouldn't be a hardship on certain people. But when you look at the cost of a license and you look at basically saying that you can go so many times, you can go literally as much as you want to, hunting and fishing. And when you break those times that are afforded to you versus the cost of a licensing, it amounts to just mere pennies per day for the entertainment value of enjoying the great outdoors of Idaho. I personally don't see where the big rub is on the increase when it's needed to help gain surplus for some of the projects in the state of Idaho.
I don't think that it's the fee increase per se that's the issue, Zeb. I think that there's a significant number of people on the committee who are hearing from their constituents, and particularly the landowning segment of their constituents, and to some extent the sportsmen's groups, certain sportsmen's groups of their constituents that are having problems with the department and the department being responsive to their needs, or at least they feel the department being responsive to their needs. And that's where the rub is. You know, as you know, I was on the Fish and Game Commission from 1996 to 2004. And we finally got the department to understand that, you know, you have to get along with people, and you have to get along with sportsmen's groups, and you have to get along with landowners groups, and you have to get along with business groups, and you don't get to make decisions in isolation. Okay? You have to get feedback, and you have to go out and develop programs that help various entities, and we're going to give you the flexibility to do that. But it seems, I mean, sometimes you and I both know, Zeb, they go out of their way to just, it almost seems like they go out of their way just to anger people, as opposed to trying to be helpful.
What about the problem being looked at by, let's say, a committee of people and restructuring things so that it's more amenable? I mean, do you have to start over from point A and do this whole thing over again? What's the answer?
Well, we do have, you know, when the winter feeding issue came up way before I ever got on the commission, we do have a landowner sportsman's advisory council, which was created by the legislature, where there's 6 members of the sportsmen's groups appointed by the director of the Department of Fish and Game, and 6 members from ag landowners groups appointed by the director of agriculture, Celia Gould. And they have a functioning committee. They meet periodically, and they're the ones that are supposed to take up these sticky wicket issues between sportsmen and landowners and sportsmen and business, etc., and then bring solutions to the commission. My understanding is that at this point in time, and I've got to search this out because this is just hearsay, and so if one of the listeners, you know, doesn't agree with that, that's fine. But because I've not verified this, but what I'm hearing is that the commission has not been very receptive to some of the groups out there or the council, and so I don't know if that's true. We've got to get to the bottom of that this week. We will be meeting 3 or 4 times this week with various legislators and the department. Got a meeting this afternoon to try and start sorting this stuff out, because I think we can get a fee increase, okay, but we're going to have to come to some agreement on issues other than just the fee increase. The fee increase itself is not the problem.
You know, Fred, we've only talked about 3 issues this morning and taken up the lion's share of our interview this morning, but I know that in my mind's eye, this legislative session is turning out to be possibly one of the most combative you've had in a long time, because you haven't even brought up some of the other issues that have to be settled. Give us an overall view as to this session, because it sounds like you've really got some problems that have to be addressed.
Well, with respect to water, I'm not sure if there's going to be any issues brought with water or not. There is the potential out there to do that, but I'm hearing rumors, but they're strictly rumors now. There is no substance to any of the rumors, so I can't tell you if there is an issue there or not. There are folks out working for Medicaid redesign. I don't see that coming forward because they simply haven't done their homework well enough to take care of that yet, although there may be a couple of people that tried to push that. But until they do their homework and they get that ready, that's major policy, Zeb, and you can't do that on the spur of a moment. Those are two out there that I'm hearing about. I do know that they are trying to have a rewrite of some of the urban renewal issues and tax increment financing issues, and trying to develop a new chapter based more on economic development as opposed to revitalization, which is what the old statute was based upon. So, and that's going to be very contentious. That will make people take off their coats and roll up their sleeves and put on the boxing gloves. That one will.
When you look at the overall every day in the session, and of course the governor, I assume, is healing up, and it won't be too much longer before he'll be back in office, this is shaping up to be a session that could have some landmark decisions for the future of the state, does it not?
It could, you bet. This spending issue and what we're going to do about education, one of the real problems we have here that we, in my opinion, I've talked to Scott about this in riding around, and one of the things I really see as a major problem that's going to come back to bite us is we have this bad habit of saying we need to spend X amount of money on this problem, and so you sort out and you find out that it's actually legitimate, but we don't want to do it all in 1 year, so we decide to do it over 5 years.
Yep.
And so what you're doing is you're locking in a program for 5 years, and you don't know whether you're going to have the revenue over a 5-year period. Well, that's insanity. That's how you get in trouble. That's what the federal government does. That's what Congress does. So we have to make sure we don't go down that road, and that is going to cause a lot of heartburn, Zeb.
I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your taking the time to come on this program. Mondays we have a special segment for Legislative Update with Representative Fred Wood, Senator Dean Cameron, and Speaker of the House Scott Betke. And Fred, God bless you. I mean, you're very informative, very explanatory, and I'm out of time, but I've got more questions but no time, and I'll look forward to the next time you're on the program.
Well, Senator Cameron's up next week, and I'll be here in 3 weeks, and we'll try to do it every week, Seb, and thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
All right, sir. God bless and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. There's a lot of issues that are coming up in this legislative session, and for those that I'll refer to as coffee shop cowboys, don't complain. Get involved and read the paper. Find out about what's being done. Find out about what they're talking about. Contact your representatives and let them know your thoughts. This is your government. This is your state. Oh my, I am blessed to have the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers on the program as a major sponsor. And they are having a great big celebration right now to where they have really got some outstanding prices for you on tires during Founders Celebration. And that, of course, a tribute to the founder of the Les Schwab Tire Centers, Mr. Les Schwab himself. What a gentleman. I had a chance, as I've stated before, to meet him up in Prineville, Oregon years ago. Very nice man. Well, of course, now they've got some really great offers for you. $50 off custom wheels when you buy a new set of 4. $20 off wheel alignment when you buy 4 new tires. All of this during the Founders Day celebration. And they've got certain tires marked down at prices that you just can't believe. So get in there and check out all the great buys and great purchases. And check out also the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts. All of this at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy, I'll bet you he's really crying today about what happened to the Seahawks. The old Seahawk fan right there on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, we are going to have Dr. History, of course. We're going to have Mr. Richard Manning, and he's going to be on the air tomorrow, along with many, many others. Kyle Drennan's going to be on the program tomorrow. A lot of interesting subject matter, so don't forget to tune in starting at 8:06 tomorrow morning. Gina, last call. Thank you for everything over there this morning. Anything you want to throw in this morning?
Nope.
That's short and sweet there, babe.
Yep. Pretty much.
How come?
Just a lot of things on my plate, trying to get a lot of things.
I do want to ask you one question. Are you frustrated when you go to the grocery store and they give you those absolutely pathetic, can't put more than a loaf of bread in each plastic bag or they'll rip to shreds? This is ridiculous. Can't they come up with a better quality plastic bag?
Yeah, it's called paper.
Oh, yeah, I'll go along with that. The other day, Deanne goes to the grocery store, and we're taking the groceries out of the shopping cart, putting them in the back of my truck, and none of them had any handles left, or they go through the bottoms. They're worthless.
They are. Honestly, yesterday when I went to the grocery store, I was leaving, and I was watching a woman as she was putting her stuff into her vehicle, and a big old a bag full of yogurt cups had broken open and then got onto the ground and everything. So, yeah, plastic bags are not the toughest.
Yeah, and it boils down to a lot of people are being forced and coerced into bringing their own to the stores and everything. Whatever happened to the word service?
I don't know.
Look it up and tell me what it means tomorrow, would you please?
You got it.
Okay. Hey, God bless. Have a good day, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, 12:30 a.m. K-Bar, and streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com. The way things were or the way things ought to be, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.